To say that Florida leaned on Jadan Baugh in this Florida State game, especially in the fourth quarter, is a bit of an understatement. He finishes with 38 rushes, 266 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. 266 rushing yards is the most a Florida running back has ever had in a football game since Emmitt Smith had 316 against New Mexico a while ago. But we're going to watch what Jadan Baugh did. He finishes off this season with 1,170 rushing yards total. Really a guy that's been impressive since he stepped onto the football field in Gainesville. His true freshman season, being kind of an underrated running back, really been impressive what he's been able to do so far in his college football career. And we'll watch what he did against Florida State right now. We'll finally get started here. But this first run, I want to say, there's kind of a trope with these 230-pound running backs that I do on this channel. I'll put my hand up. I'm usually like, oh yeah, in the first quarter, you'll see them run for 3 yards, 4 yards, and then that'll turn into 10 yards, and then that'll turn into a 50-yard run. That's kind of the kind of runner that Kejuan Lacey is at Ole Miss. He's a really talented running back, also a sophomore. With Jadan Baugh, this was just this was a 400-meter. This was a sprint from the beginning all the way to the end. This is the first play of the game, right? I wish I could come on here and tell you that, he just completely wore down the Florida State defense. He did do that, but he was just sprinting past them to even start with. So this is just outside zone here. This is really well blocked. He doesn't even have to make a decision on this because of how well blocked this is. This almost looks more like a power run. When you just have your running back, you're not telling them to read the offensive line or the defensive line. You're just telling them to get downhill, and then we can see that explosiveness and that acceleration at about 5 yards right here. He's really moving, and then he's going to finish this off with a couple more yards. So this dude is a great athlete. I'm not trying to downplay the athleticism because I think people will do that at 230 pounds. They kind of want to fit him into, oh, he's more of a power back. No, he's a great athlete that just so happens to carry 230 pounds and is a great power back at the same time. But, so we saw that first play was a bit more, it was outside zone. It looked a bit more like power. This time, this is a lot more what a zone run looks like, where you're square to the line of scrimmage, making that decision. And then just take a look at that acceleration off of that left foot right here. The way he can just kind of glide outside there. And then we see him be 230 pounds once we see him get contacted by a Seminole defender. And, he's wrapped up at, we'll call this the 0-yard line where he's at right now. And you can see where he finishes this run. That's another 5 yards that he adds at the end of that run there. And that's on pure strength and pure will alone. I think this dude has the mentality that you need to play running back. We see that show up on the football field. What you don't see is him in the weight room, right? A lot of that 230 pounds and that strength that's on the football field, that's from the weight room. This is from the weight room. This isn't just showing up to football practice and, doing all the jugs machines, all that kind of stuff. This is pure bench. Or squat. This is on the squat rack right here that he earned those extra 5 yards at the end of the run. So that's what he did this entire game. That's how you end with 266 rushing yards, and we'll see some longer runs. Now, this is where that trope kind of starts taking over. They kind of got tired of tackling Jadan Baugh, and then he was just able to outrun everybody. But I want to talk about this explosiveness again off of this left foot, and this offensive line played a great game. This offensive line played a great game, and this block here, take a look at the right guard, just tries to get a chip on this Florida State defender, adding himself to the box right now. Just misses him, and it doesn't matter for Jadan Baugh, and I want to watch this in full speed again, just so we can appreciate that explosiveness right here. Just watch it. See how easy that is, and then he just completely accelerates into the second level, and you blink, and that's a 20-yard run. That doesn't look like a power back right there, does it? I'm just not trying to box him into that conversation. And then this is like a tough thing. You got to put yourself in a Florida State defender's, mind. If you're number 31, Elijah Herring here, how physical of a back Jadan Baugh is. Like, if I saw this, if you told me I was Elijah Herring, I'm worried about getting ran over. Well, because I'm worried about getting ran over, what do you think Jadan Baugh does? He kind of takes advantage of that and just cuts to his left. And then he has that contact balance to break that arm tackle and then finish that run off. And then we'll see him just follow his blockers here. This one's a really well blocked. Just tossed to the outside. And he doesn't even get touched on this. And then in the fourth quarter, we saw a lot more wildcat, which, I really liked because you're not throwing it anyway. I think DJ Lagway attempted something like 2 or 3 passes the entire fourth quarter. So you pretty much just get another blocker in the box every time if your quarterback is the one that's running the ball, right? Because they split DJ Lagway out, Jadan Baugh at quarterback, and the wildcat got another blocker in the box. And we saw that one cut agility before, but just take a look at the way that he can string these together right here. Just kind of navigate around this Florida State defense, and then he's going to finish that run off strong as well. And this was about a 12-yard touchdown. This is the one that got called back, if I remember right. So this one didn't count, and then like 2 plays later, they're just going to toss it to the left. And at this point, Florida State was checked out. Like I said, they were checked out from the beginning of the game. We saw the way that Jadan Baugh just kind of sprinted at the beginning, and then, this was a battle of wills at this point, and that's something that Florida State's dearly lacking at this point in the program. But yeah, Ball's been a lot of fun to watch. I think the announcer hit the nail on the head. He said, if I'm John Summerall, he didn't say John Summerall, but he was like, if I'm the new Florida coach, I don't think it was official at this point during the game, but he's like, if I'm the new Florida coach, the first call I'm making is the number 13. I'm making sure Jadan Baugh's on this Florida roster in 2026. And I totally agree, man. This 2027 running back class, I kind of hinted at it before, but, we've been talking about the receivers and even the edge rushers now with how good of a season Colin Simmons is having at Texas. I think this running back class as well is going to be a lot of fun to kind of track. And Jadan Baugh is one of those names that could be drafted, one of those first running backs drafted if he continues the production. Really fun story to watch him kind of as a underrated guy walking into Florida, and he just kind of bursts onto the scene, and he stayed on the scene, right? Definitely not a guy that he's kind of vindicating or proving that first year, if that makes any sense. But yeah, if you guys want a place to store all your draft evaluations, please check out we-draft.com. Thanks for watching.